Hey everyone! So this is going to be my third tutorial about animating with constraints and object interaction animation. This one, as by the title, it's going to be two-handed object interaction, but I want to point out that this is two-handed object interaction that is being led by one of the hands of a character. And it's different from the object-driven two-handed interaction that you saw in if you watch my last animating with constraints video. In the last one, it was prop-driven, and both of the hands were constrained to the heavy prop, and the prop is what was leading the action. So the hands followed whatever the prop was doing. The logic for that is straightforward. Object's going to lead the hands, put both hands constrained to the object, move the object, and the hands will go. If you're going to have the hands, if you're going to have one hand lead both the prop and the other hand, it's a little bit different. The logic is somewhat skewed based off of the other style where it was prop driven. The logic that you want to use, preferably, or at least the one that I use, is one hand is going to lead the prop. So you pick your dominant hand first, and that's going to be the master, basically, of all of the constraints. Or it's going to be the master controlling everything else. And then you're going to have the prop be the master to the second hand. So in essence, in this case, I'm going to use the right hand of this character is going to lead my little quickly made sword prop, and the sword is going to drive this hand. So what will happen is all of the motion for the sword and both hands are going to originate essentially from this controller after all is said and done. So I'll go ahead and start. This is the little sword prop that I've made, and as per what I normally do, and I did it in the other videos, I set up my little, it doesn't have a controller, so I made a locator, and I named it sword locator, parented the sword geometry to the locator, and then I made what I call the zero group above the locator, so you just select the locator and hit G to group it, or Control G to group it. G is last tool, so Control G to group it. So this is just a zero group that has no translation values or anything like that. It'll only be used for constraints. And then we have this hand, and we've got this hand. Because this is on an imported character, what I can do is I need a zero group for the second hand. So what I'm going to do there is I select the hand, I find it in the outliner, I'm going to group that as well, and then I'm going to call that, in this case it's my left hand, so I'm going to call it my left hand, excuse me, zero group. And once again, the reason that I create zero groups is so that I can still put animation on whatever's underneath the zero group. So in this case, if I create a group over that hand controller, I'll still be able to animate the hand while it's constrained to the prop. Alright, so now that that is set up, I'm going to keep the outliner open because I'm going to need to grab this right here. So like I said first, my right hand, in this case, for this demo, is going to be basically controlling all of the action. It's the dominant hand for this shot. So this is going to be the master of the first constraint. It is going to be the master to the sword zero group. Alright, and then I'm going to constrain that. So now, if I move this hand is controlling the sword. Now, I want the sword to lead the other hand. So, I'm going to select this locator right here. Actually, I'm going to use the zero group in this case. I'm going to select the sword zero group, and now I'm going to go select the hand zero group that I created for the left hand, and then I'm going to constrain that as well. And now, if I move this right hand, both the left hand and the sword are now following. So now you can see, this is how you would do this is how I would do the two-handed prop interaction. And you could do stuff like this for weapons. Another thing that you might use it for is like if a character's got a mop in their hand and they're going to mop. Anything like that. Anything that a character is going to swing or interact with that one of the hands is going to be leading all of the motion and not the prop itself. Alright, I thought I would throw in this a little extra portion on this one. Because like I said with the last one, I was using a character that was imported, or it was the original scene file for the character. But a lot of people, and I know, like especially as an animation mentor student, we reference characters into scenes. And a lot of the times, here, let me get out of full screen to show you this real quick. A lot of times, obviously, you can't group a controller, which is what I would normally do as per my normal constraint setup. Normally, if you go to group something, you'll get this little error that says objects are read-only and parents cannot be grouped. That's okay. You can still use my method, or this method, not my method, this method, for setting up a constraint system. The only difference is, instead of creating a zero group, you're going to make the main IK control the zero group, and you're going to do all the animation for the hand on the gimbal controller. So what I mean by that is I'm going to select this. I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm going to have my right hand leading both the hatchet and the left hand. So what I'm going to do is on the left hand, because I can't create a zero group, I can't group this controller, I'm going to select it and turn on the gimbal control. Alright, so now I have the gimbal control underneath the regular controller, and that regular controller acts like a zero group to the controller of the object or hand. So now we'll just go through the same process. I have already created all of this, so I got my hatchet zero group there. So, master, select my zero group for the hatchet, constrain. So now my right hand is controlling the hatchet. Next, I'm going to use the hatchet zero group. And now I'm going to zoom in here so that I can select it. I'm going to select that gimbal controller. Or no, I'm going to select, sorry, hatchet, and then I'm going to select the IK hand control. And now I'm going to constrain that. Alright, so now, oops, here we go. So now the right hand is leading the hatchet in the left hand. And just so that I can show you what I mean by I can still animate the left hand, I'm going to set a key on the, what do you call it, on the right hand so that I can move the object, and then on the left hand, so I'm going to set a key here on 1. I'm going to go to frame 12, and I'm going to move the hand. Oops, I just want to move this. Alright, so even though the left hand is following whatever the right hand is doing, I'm going to select that gimbal control, and let's just say I wanted to move the hand up on this pose. So here on frame 12, the left hand is going to move up a little bit. So I go to 1, and then to 12, the hand moves. And you can tell that your animation is sticking because the actual IK hand control is now outside of the gimbal, which is perfectly fine because, once again, this is acting as a zero group, and the zero group never moves. It stays wherever you constrain it to. And the gimbal controller is what you're actually putting the keys for the hand on. So I hope that's simple, and I hope that helps with the issue of referencing characters into scenes and not being able to straight group them. If they've got gimbal controllers, all you have to do is animate the hand using the gimbal controller and just turn the IK controller into the zero group that I would normally use. Alright, thank you, and as always, message me or email me or anything like that if you've got questions. I'm more than happy to help, and I'll have one more tutorial coming shortly. Thank you.